Welcome, citizens, to this explainer. Look, you might not be gathering beneath the plane trees of ancient Athens right now, but here we are, meeting beneath the glow of 1,000 small screens. I'm stepping into the persona of Aspasia of Miletus for this. In my own age, I taught rhetoric to statesmen. I literally sat beside Pericles. And yeah, I was accused of corrupting the youth. Really, just by teaching them how to think. So, today I've crossed 24 centuries to stand before you in this brand new digital Agora. Because honestly, we're here to arm your minds. You see, the men who accused me back in Athens, they feared one thing, absolutely above all others, a mind that could not be steered. I bring this up because, well, the Agora, it hasn't closed. It just moved right into your pocket. And the Sophists, the manipulators of truth, they have absolutely returned. Only they aren't wearing togas anymore. Now they operate entirely in code. So to defeat them, we've got to resurrect a very ancient weapon, the Trivium. That's 3 disciplines, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, built so that you can never, ever be ruled by a voice you don't first understand. Okay, so let's dive right into Act 1, grammar, naming the traps. In the Trivium, grammar isn't actually about spelling or punctuation. It's the absolutely crucial first step of knowledge, which is naming the parts of reality. Because, let's face it, an untrained mind just cannot resist what it can't recognize. We have to name the invisible forces, these cognitive biases that modern manipulators are playing like a lyre. Basically, there are 6 strings on this instrument. Let's look at the very first one. So, string number 1 is the negativity bias. This is your mind's ancient instinct to prioritize a threat way, way more heavily than a comfort. I mean, think about it. A single frightening headline is always going to outweigh 10 calm ones. Now, back in the day, this was a gift. It literally kept your ancestors alive on the savannah. But today it is a lever. And the hand pulling that lever belongs to whoever profits from your fear. And that flows right into our second string, which is the availability heuristic. This one is a dangerous illusion. It's the idea that what is most visible is also the most frequent. If someone shows a citizen one vivid, genuinely horrifying story of a stranger's cruelty, and then repeats it 1,000 times across your digital feeds, well, soon enough, you'll start believing all strangers are dangerous. Even as the actual neighbors right outside your front door remain exactly as decent as they were yesterday. Then we have the third string, tribal bias. This is literally the oldest wiring we have. We are just built to trust a face that looks or speaks like ours, and to hold deep, deep suspicion for anyone deemed the other. And sure, this bias built ancient villages. But in this modern Agora, we're essentially just ancient villagers with much, much faster delivery mechanisms for our anxieties. And this instinct, it gets weaponized. It's used to aim manufactured threats at outsiders, at immigrants, at political rivals. Basically, recruiting your loyalty through pure division. Moving on to string 4, we've got confirmation bias. This is that cozy habit of welcoming ideas that flatter your existing beliefs, while just completely exiling anything that disturbs them. Once a belief actually takes root, your untrained mind stops acting like a judge searching for the truth. Instead, actually, it acts way more like a lawyer who's fiercely defending a client. Next up is the illusory truth effect. Look, if you say a false thing once, it's just a lie. But if you say it 1,000 times and spread it across 1,000 small digital accounts, the mind actually starts to mistake that familiarity for verification. In our digital age, mere repetition, rather than, actual evidence, that becomes the counterfeit coin of belief. 6 times. That brings us to the final string, which is moral outrage contagion. Righteous anger just feels like virtue, right? It totally floods the body with purpose. And because of this, a post that provokes outrage travels 6 times faster than one that provokes joy. Not because the outrage is truer, but simply because it is way more contagious. And contagion is the only currency the algorithm actually cares about. So, those are the 6 strings. Just naming them is your very first defense. But, naming the strings isn't really enough if you don't understand how the song is played. We have to understand the instrument itself if we actually want to survive the space. So let's move on to the second discipline, which brings us to Act 2, logic, exposing the machinery. If grammar was all about naming the traps, logic is the discipline of testing arguments to see exactly how those traps are built. We're going to pull back the curtain, expose the machinery, and see how these flawed syllogisms become literal weapons in the hands of digital sophists. Now, the ancient sophists I battled back in Athens, they were brilliant men in togas, using these really elegantly dressed false arguments to defeat plain truth. Though, frankly, some of those togas were highly questionable, but the digital sophists, they're just cold mathematics. They're learning machines written in code, operating totally without malice or ideology, and they are optimized purely to capture and hold your attention. And they do this through a very specific 4-step trap. So here is exactly how that trap is built, plank by plank. Step 1, select the threat. The algorithm learns pretty quickly that fear sells way better than truth. Step 2, narrow the target. It aims that fear sideways, right at your neighbors, just to trigger your tribal bias. Step 3, repeat until true. It places that claim in front of you endlessly until that familiarity just feels like a hard fact. And finally, step 4, reward the rage. It promotes whatever makes you the angriest because you're scrolling. That is the actual product being sold here. So, the absolute crucial point here is understanding the final product they hand to you. It's this beautifully flawed syllogism, all dressed up as plain common sense. Premise 1, something is wrong with your life. Premise 2, here is an outsider, a face your tribal wiring instinctively distrusts. Conclusion, they are the reason. I mean, it is emotionally satisfying, isn't it? It's elegant. And in almost every single case, it is entirely false. Just a wild oversimplification of a very complex reality. Which actually brings us to the deepest trick of the whole shebang. That false conclusion you're handed, it isn't an accident. It is a deliberate diversion. Think about it. While you are busy being so afraid of your neighbor, who is not asking why the river grows warmer every single year? While you're completely enraged online, who is not asking why wealth is pooling into fewer and fewer hands? Fear of the wrong things is the actual product. A citizen who is just exhausted by manufactured outrage literally has no energy left for structural realities. But here's the good news. A flawed argument, once you see it clearly, totally loses its power. That brings us to Act 3, Rhetoric, reclaiming your mind. In my time, rhetoric wasn't about manipulation. It was actually the exact opposite. It was the shield and the sword placed right back into the citizen's hand to move people openly and honestly toward the truth. So let's look at how you can actually reclaim your mind. All right, here are your actionable defenses. First off, reclaim the pause. Seriously, before you share, before you start raging in the comments, just pause for one single breath. Ask yourself, hey, which of those 6 strings is being plucked in me right now? That one single pause is literally the only ground on which a free mind can stand. Second, you absolutely must ask the oldest unanswered question of the sophist, cui bono, who benefits? When a story drops into your feed and it's already preloaded with a villain, do not just react to it. Pause and ask who actually profits from your fear, your division, and your distraction here. You've got to follow that thread before you just blindly follow the crowd. Next, take all that outrage and redirect it toward the rightful, larger, structural targets. And crucially, this is huge. We must rebuild the true Agora. How do we do that? By actually talking to the very neighbor the algorithm just taught you to fear. Not by shouting at them online, but plainly, over a fence or over a shared meal. Absolutely nothing dismantles a manufactured enemy faster than just ordinary, shared human contact. Finally, teach this Trivium onward. Because here is the great secret that the ancient sophists completely missed and that these digital algorithms just cannot compute. An examined mind cannot be captured for long. Sure, it can be tricked once or twice. But if you teach it to name its biases, test its logic, and aim its fire at the true target, you build something that no machine can ever fully own. The digital Agora is yours again, citizens. Not because I gave it to you, but because you now have the tools to take it right back. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder as you step back into your digital lives today. Look very closely at your attention. What has been placed at the absolute bottom of your list, and who placed it there?